Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Happy Friday night, good evening, and welcome to the Doc Watkins Show. I'm your host, Doc Watkins. I'm joined by Brandon Guerra on the drums, Mike Porter on the bass, and our special guest tonight is back by popular demand, saxophonist and San Antonio native, Mr. Adam Carrillo. We'll get to the music in just a minute, but first, let's have a look at the JazzTexas news. Former reality TV star Barbara Kavavit, who previously starred in The Real Housewives of New York, has announced she's going to run for mayor of New York City in 2021. Read all about this in the latest issue of The End of Civilization Weekly. A giant pouched rat is being honored with a gold medal by a veterinary group after saving numerous lives by leading experts to the detection of landmines in Cambodia. Meanwhile, here in the United States, there's a new book out by a smaller rat. Actor Vin Diesel just dropped his new dance music song, Feel Like I Do. And after listening to the Vin Diesel sing, I guess we both feel a bit nauseous. In other music news, singer Mariah Carey announced the release this week of her new memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey. People who've read the book say that Mariah Carey is about as talented as a writer as Vin Diesel is a singer. And finally, 2 different chainsaws sold at the home improvement chain Lowe's are being recalled because they pose a laceration hazard. If you see anyone in the greater San Antonio area wielding a bloody saw who resembles this man, please contact authorities immediately. And that's it for the JazzTexas news. We'll get to the music in just a moment, but first, how about a toast? To everyone tuning in tonight to the Doc Watkins Show, especially those of you who have ordered food and drinks from our kitchen and bar. Cheers, everybody. Here's to many more years of JazzTexas music, food, friends, family, and drinks. Cheers. We're going to start out with a little blues tune now. This is an arrangement that we love to play from the Oscar Peterson repertoire, a tune called Night Train. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2. Brandon Guerra on the drum solo. Mike Porter on the bass. That's Night Train. Thank you very much, y'all. We want to give a big shout out to our production team. That's Caitlin Hill on the audio production, and on the video, Mr. Chris Zients with Wizard Broadcasting. Also, we want to thank our media sponsor, KRTU 91.7 FM, one of the greatest jazz radio stations on the planet. Make sure and tune in to KRTU on your way to work in the morning, on your way home from work in the evening. KRTU, we love you guys. Also, we want to let you all know we have a new gig out here in 2020 just for you. It's on Saturday night, October 10th, at the AT&T Center. We'll be outdoors for a socially distanced event. Tickets are now on sale, and you can get them at attcenter.com. It's going to be myself on piano, Mike on the bass, Brandon on the drums, and special guest Jason Galbraith on the tenor saxophone. So make sure and come and hang with us and hear some live music for the first time in almost 7 months at the AT&T Center, Saturday night, October 10th. We'll see you then. We're going to follow up in the program with a tune by the great trumpeter Freddie Hubbard, entitled Up Jumped Spring. That's Up Jump Spring by Freddie Hubbard. Thank you very much. Our special guest tonight has been with us on the program before. He's a native of San Antonio. He's a wonderful saxophone player, very good friend. He's been here at Jazz Texas many times, playing with my band and also playing with his own band. He's got his own quartet, and he was here on opening night at Jazz Texas back in 2016. He's back tonight. Please welcome to the stage Mr. Adam Carrillo. Adam, welcome to the show, man. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me. It's really nice to be here.
When you showed up today, you said, could we play Canadian Sunset?
I did, because I'm not Canadian.
Because you're not Canadian, and the sun has already set.
Figuratively,
which
yes.
means we're not getting any younger,
no,
right?
Oh, that's dark. let's pet people up by playing.
It's a little too dark. But it's one of our favorite tunes, so why don't we go ahead and play it, guys? Take it away. Canadian Sunset. Adam Carrillo on the tenor saxophone. That is Canadian Sunset. Adam, welcome to the program, and thank you for being here tonight on this Friday night. Welcome to Jazz Texas, my friend.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Adam, tell us a little bit about this pandemic and how it has affected you as an artist and I'm not talking about the lack of gigs, because everyone's out of a gig, but in terms of your musical development, what have you gone through over the last 6 months?
Well, because it seems like we kind of went in the dark ages for a few months. We still have the internet, so not completely. But I decided to take this time to, I still like to play my instrument. If I can't play in front of people, well, then I can just, play alone in my room. And I started thinking, okay, how can I make the best use of my time? And I started listening to a lot of interviews from a lot of musicians that I really look up to, who are 50 plus years of age.
Who are some of those?
My favorite is Branford Marsalis. He's very opinionated, but he's got some good, I tend to agree with a lot of what he says.
Yeah.
So him and some other people who, influenced him, just reading interviews from back in the day. And they all seem to have a certain method of learning and practicing, and a lot of it is listening, and then when you're done with that, listen some more. And I know in this day and age, we're overwhelmed with so much information that it can, in one way, it can be, oh wow, this is cool. We can do this, we can learn this technique or whatever. But sometimes, like I said, it can be overwhelming. Yeah. And sometimes it's nice to just pick one thing and do that one thing. In this case, listen to a song. For example, a recording of Canadian Sunset by a famous jazz musician, which I've been doing. And listen to it for like a month and really like get the most out of it as you can, as opposed to do this thing and kind of just, hit the surface, really. Yeah.
So when you sit down to practice, let's just say you have an hour to practice the saxophone. What do you try to accomplish, and how do you practice?
I try to feel as positive as I can throughout the whole process, because once you start feeling negative with anything, not just music, you're not going to learn and retain anything. And I found that I retain the most when I enjoying the activity the most. So I've just found listening to, basically doing what the old guys did back in the day, listening to records. When they heard something they liked, they figured out how to do it. Yeah. End of story.
They've done studies on that, on learning and the mind and everything, that when you're in a positive frame of mind, when you're smiling or when you're enjoying something, you also learn way faster and you retain more information. I mean, it sounds fairly obvious, but so many people, especially growing up, they sit down to practice. It's like a chore, and they can't wait to. And you're kind of harming yourself more than anything when you look at practicing like a chore. At least I've found, because you're not actually allowing yourself to really have the learning process happen. You have to be enjoying it.
Yeah.
So what happens when there's something that you feel like you should work on your saxophone, but you're just not that excited about it?
I probably just don't practice.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what a night's sleep will do. I wake up the next day and I'm like, oh, I feel like I want to do this, and I do it. So I guess my recommendation to everybody out there, not just musicians, is use this time, this extended free time that we have, to learn something new, or take something that you've already started learning and maybe try to find some different approaches to how to learn it.
I've talked to a lot of musicians who throughout the lockdown have said that their motivation just even to practice just went away completely. And that was true for me, especially early on in the lockdown. It was like the gig went away, the audience went away, and it was kind of like, what's the point? And everyone was saying, oh, Shakespeare composed his best work during quarantine, and you should be composing your best work. But I talked to so many people who said, I'm just not motivated. I just don't even want to pick up the horn or sit down at the piano. And did you go through that period, or were you motivated from the get-go?
I think the biggest, if there was anything that demotivated me, it was not being able to perform what I'm practicing immediately. But I got over that. There's this fear that a lot of musicians and other artists have, that one day we're just going to wake up and suddenly not be able to do anything that we can do anymore, or at least not as good, which generally it doesn't really work that way, but it still exists in our heads.
There's a story about Vladimir Horowitz, one of the greatest classical pianists of all time, that he went through a period for a few years where he was older, and he would walk downstairs every morning, sit down at the piano, look at it, and then just walk back upstairs and go back to bed. Because for a few years he completely lost his motivation. And How do you know when you lose your motivation, which happens to every person on the planet, no matter what they do, but especially for musicians, it's not always easy, and we don't always want to practice. How do you know when it's better to just put the horn down and go for a walk and do something else and let the desire to play come back to you versus knowing I should fight through this?
Yeah, I would say there are moments when you just got to fight through it, and then after 10 minutes, you're like, oh, okay, I'm in this now. It's human nature to resist work, or
Yeah.
We don't want to do something if it's not completely comfortable. But just stick with it for like 10 minutes, and it will get comfortable, and then eventually you're like, okay, I got this. But other times, if I don't really feel like practicing, I'll just go for a walk and listen to someone who I really enjoy. And then by the end of that walk, I'm like, oh, I have 2 months worth of ideas to work on.
It's crazy what happens to you when you don't have to learn something. Like if you have a gig where you're getting paid and someone's paying you to learn a song for a gig on Saturday night, you have to sort of force yourself and push through because that's your job and that's how you make your living. But then all of a sudden when that goes away, and you really talk about forced perspective, it makes you wonder why you do the things you really do and where the creativity ultimately comes from. And it sounds like for you it's very much within. You know, I've watched you practice. We've played together half a dozen times during the pandemic, and you just get better and better and better, and you keep pushing through, and you keep working and bringing us new tunes. And you have a new tune that you're going to show us now, which I'd never heard this tune. It's called, what's it called?
It's called One for Dadio. It's not my tune, but it's a Cannonball Adderley tune, a very good saxophone player.
Who was Dadio?
You'll have to ask a relative Cannonball, or when you meet him.
Was he? I don't know if it was like his dad, or was there a cat in the band called Dadio?
I don't know. You know how words and semantics change over time. I don't know if Dadio meant something different back then as it does now. I don't even know if people use Dadio now.
My son Jack, every morning he wakes up and I say, "Hey, Jackie-O," and he says, "Hey, Dadio."
Sounds like you're living in the 50s.
I wish. Well, show us this tune, man. This is One for Dadio by Cannonball Adderley. That's One for Dadio by Cannonball Adderley, Adam Carrillo on the saxophone, Mike Porter on the bass, Brandon Guerra on the drums. It's that time of the program, ladies and gentlemen. We're all stuck inside our homes during this 2020 pandemic, no end in sight, and many of us are getting bored. We're starting to turn to board games, looking for new board games to play, but the stores are out. So JazzTexas has decided to create our own unique board game, which you can play with right from the comfort of your own boudoir. So without further ado, let's play the board game. Well, by now, it's been 43 episodes of the Doc Watkins Show, so you probably already know how the board game works. We pick two famous people, both of whom are pretty boring. We compare and contrast them both, and then I get to decide at the end of the game who's the biggest bore. So tonight on the board game, who's more boring, Moby or Shaggy? Well, on the one hand, Moby is a musician, songwriter, singer, who's considered to be among the most important dance music figures of the early 1990s. Ironically, when I hear a song by Moby, the last thing I want to do is dance. Moby's not his real name. His real name is Nemo. In addition to his music career, Moby is known for his veganism and support for animal welfare. But sadly, even though he goes by the name of Moby, he's never saved any whales. Moby was the owner of Little Pine, a vegan restaurant in Hollywood, but after customers tasted the food there, they decided they'd prefer In-N-Out Burger. In 2016, Moby published an autobiography, which, based on his reputation, should have been entitled Moby Dick, but apparently that title was already taken. On the other hand, Shaggy is an American musician, singer, DJ, and actor who won a Grammy Award for Best Reggae Album, apparently the one year when Bob Marley wasn't nominated. Last year, he co-starred in a musical television special of The Little Mermaid Live, which makes Shaggy have more in common with whales than Moby. Shaggy served in the U.S. Marines during the Persian Gulf War, and the highest rank he achieved was Lance Corporal. Although his rank was reduced twice, from Lance Corporal Shaggy to Lance Corporal Unkempt, and Lance Corporal Disheveled. People often confuse Shaggy, the singer, with the character Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, perhaps because they're both thought of as stoners. Like the musician Moby, Shaggy is a vegetarian, but unlike Moby, there's no famous novel entitled Shaggy Dick. That would be weird. That's a tough call, ladies and gentlemen, but if you had to pick who bores you the most, Moby or Shaggy, the correct answer is Moby. And thanks for playing the board game. We'd like to do a very special song now for a very special person and dedicate this one to Liz Morales. Well, we actually want to dedicate it to Liz and Gil. You guys can dance in your living room or bedroom or wherever you do your dancing when you're not here at JazzTexas, since we can't dance here yet, but we'll get there someday. This is a tune called Over the Rainbow. Liz and Gil, this one's for y'all. Here goes. Adam Carrillo on the alto saxophone, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Thank you very much, y'all. We're going to close out with one final tune. Remember, we're back tomorrow night, Saturday night, 8 o'clock, same time, same channel. We've got special guest Jason Galbraith joining us on the tenor saxophone, and also pianist and band leader Colin Shook from from Austin, Texas, will be joining us remotely as well. So tune in tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. Our kitchen and bar are open starting at 5. And we'd like to close out with one final blues tune for you. It's a little Ray Charles groove that we're going to let Brandon set up for us. So take it away, Brandon. Adam Carrillo on the saxophone, Brandon Guerra on the drums, Mike Porter on the bass, Caitlin Hill on the audio, Chris Zients on the Wizard Broadcasting. Make sure and tune in tomorrow night, 8 p.m. for special guests Jason Galbraith and Colin Shook joining us remotely from Austin. And make sure to get tickets for next Saturday, October 10th at the AT&T Center. You can get tickets online at attcenter.com. We'll see y'all tomorrow night at 8. Thank you so much, y'all, and good night.